Hey guys, what is up and welcome to another Team Rewind deck profile brought to you by me, Blaney P, on London Players Guild. Today we are going to go through the Ultforce deck build, which I find to be one of the most consistent decks in the meta. I know a lot of people class it as a glass cannon, which I disagree with. It does brick, but so does every other deck in the game at the moment because there's just not enough consistency cards out there. But I feel like this gives you enough draw power that majority of the time you can get over it. So let's start going through the cards and why I run what cards I run. Up first we have Omnimon, which is when attacking once per turn. If your opponent has a Digimon with no Digivolution sources, draw one. This guy can be really great on a chain, especially when you've got Ultforce out and enough of your Tamers. You can just keep drawing. Well, it's once per turn, but you know, one card's better than no cards. Up next for the babies, I run two Demi Beam, which is once per turn. If this Digimon becomes active during your main phase, the Digimon gets plus 1000 DP until the end of the turn. This card can be really good if you trigger the Reena when you've got the Ultforce out, because on your first swing, your Ultforce is then going to have 13k, meaning he should be pretty safe. If he's not got the jamming to still batter through cards, stops pretty much anything other than Omnimon, I think, or Yellow obviously can have a few threats above that if they've got enough TKs out, but 13k is usually a pretty solid number to be swinging in at and feel pretty safe about it. Right, going into the rookies, I run a 4 of Gomon. This is just to draw. Can be really good if you've evolved in the raising area that turn and then you've got Gomon in hand to throw down. It means you're guaranteeing a draw for a hard caster rookie. So it just means you don't need to evolve on him and you can start putting more threats out on your board and still carry on drawing for it so your hand size isn't decreasing as you go through. Up next, Gomon. He's really good to evolve your blockers on just because when they get destroyed, you're going to get +1 memory off it, bringing your opponent's gauge down, meaning they can do less on their turn. Or even on your turn, if you've got something out and you're willing to sacrifice it because you just need that 1 memory to make the difference, it's worth swinging in, taking that risk and seeing if it dies to get the memory. I mean, worst case scenario, you take a security out with it. Up next is Veedramon, which is your turn once per turn. If this Digimon becomes active during your main phase, draw one. Again, him running alongside the Uppermon on an Ultforce means drawing 2 cards on your first swing. What's not to like about that? Increases your chances of trying to get to Vulcan Hammers and things like that to extend your plays that turn even further. The deck's all about drawing. Up next, Veedramon, your turn. If you have a blue Tamer, jamming. Now, I run 4 of these and 3 of the other Veedramon zeros. I don't run any of the secret rares because I was running the secret rares and I found that they were losing me games because you get too eager to attack with them when you don't actually need to, and then they end up dying to the security and you lose your chain. So I prefer these much more, just because you have the capability of swinging in and knowing it's safe. The only thing that's going to get rid of it is a security card, and at the moment there aren't that many security cards in the game that are going to create a threat to you. So I really do prefer these and the other one over running secret because, you know, if I've got an opportunity to attack, I like to attack. That's my personal preference, and that's why I got rid of the secrets. Because if you feel like you don't really need to attack too much until you've got your Ultforce out, other than for applying a little bit of pressure, then there's no point in running the secret. It's just going to cause you heartache, and no one needs that. So I much prefer jamming, having the Tamer out, and feeling safe about the swings I am putting in. Up next is the other Veedramon I just mentioned, Veedramon 0. Now, when attacking, if you have a blue Tamer, by discarding 3 cards from the top of your deck, this Digimon gets plus 2000 DP until the end of your turn. And then his inheritable links that the other way around pretty much, so it very much works together with when attacking by returning 3 non-Digi-Egg cards from your trash to the bottom of your deck, draw 1. Now, when I have these guys out, I do tend to like to put 1 swing in with him before I evolve him, just so that I can throw a swing, mill 3 cards off the top of my deck. I know I'm getting further to where I want to go with the cards in my deck then, because Finning's winning. And then once you've evolved up on him, you know, because you gain the 2k, so you're swinging with a 7. If you've got a Reena on the field as well, you can tap that and give him 8k. 8k is a pretty golden number to go in at and feel safe. I mean, if they flip a mega, they flip a mega, but it's low odds. And yeah, so you get the 8k swing off it, and you've milled 3 cards off your deck, and then the next turn, well, on the end of your turn usually, you should have the energy there to go into your Aerovedramon, which I'll cover in a minute, put him back to active where he's safe, and the turn after, swing in, and put 3 cards from your discard pile back into your deck and draw a card off it. So, you know, you can put in back your Vulcan's Hammers, just whatever you feel you need, what you've missed, or, you know, something you've already used and didn't want to use so soon. Maybe an Ultforce, or something you've lost in security that you view as a crucial piece. But most of the time I find myself using them, putting the Vulcan Hammers back. Not that I think games go long enough that you'll ever see them again, but maybe further down the line when shuffling comes into it, might be a bit more useful. Up next we have Grizzlymon, which is a blocker, you know. It is what it is. It's your blocker you put out if you're not getting where you want to go. You want to buy some time, and just build a wall. Like I said earlier, the Gomon that gives you +1 memory if it's destroyed on the inheritables, probably the best place to go with your blocker, just so that when your blocker is dying, you're getting that bit more value out of it against your opponent. They've got to think then, can I afford to swing in? If they've done all their evolving and they're at 0 and they've got a threat of a field, can they even swing that turn? Because if they do, you'll block with your Grizzlymon and it'll push the turn to you, meaning that they've not had chance to pressure you with their attackers. And then up next, probably my favourite ult in the deck, Zudumon. When played, draw 2. Who doesn't like to draw 2? There's many a game where I've just hard cast him out because I've had a bit of a dull hand at the start. You're giving your opponent 7, but how much can they do with 7 that early on? And then it forces them usually to make a big play because they're scared of your big play. And he's letting you draw 2, and then playing him does create the bait of if they do a hard cast big play, that's pretty much exactly what you want. Because Zudumon's inheritable is, when attacking, if your opponent has a Digimon with no Digivolution sources, get +1 memory. And then this is where the deck starts to get really crazy. Because Zudumon, combined with Aerovedra Veedramon, and enough Tamers on the board, is every time you swing, you tap a Tamer, you restand, you gain a memory back. You gain a memory once per turn off Aerovedra Veedramon anyway. And yeah, you just keep doing it. You can get 4 or 5 attacks off a turn. I'd say the average you tend to get with him is 3 to 4, but that's another 4 memory in your turn you've got because you've baited your opponent into playing a card with no evolution sources. And, you know, you're putting the pressure in on the security, you're gaining the memory. I've had situations where I've been able to swing, and then I've been able to go back up to 4 memory, and I've ended my turn by playing my 1 of Omnimon evolving onto it, clearing the opponent's field, only giving the opponent 3 memory, and feeling very safe to take the victory next turn. That's enough on Zudumon anyway. He's my favourite. Up next is not Grizzlymon again, is Aerovedramon. Now, Aerovedramon is when Digivolved, if you have a blue Tamer, one of your blue Digimon become active. And this is what I was referring to before when I said about Veedramon 0, is that you can swing in with him, do the damage, do the mills ready so that you can get your draws on later turns, and then be ready to play this on top of it. Sorry about the cough. Yep. Sorry, totally lost my place of thought there. So yeah, you play the Aerovedramon on top of your Veedramon 0 and restand it so it's safe for next turn. The only way your opponent's going to manage to get rid of it, more than likely, is by playing an option card on it. Which, if they're playing an option card because they're afraid of your chain, let them, because it's probably going to give you enough energy to start going up a chain again anyway. And they've wasted a turn not making a board presence. Garurumon up next is a one of. I don't use him much in this deck, but I had an ultimate spot, and he is nice in certain situations. Similar to the Zudumon, again, except he gives you security attack +1. So he's really good if you've had a game where you've been on a bit of a back foot and not quite got where you wanted to go, because you can stick him on and then stick the Ultforce on him. It's a situation where if you've not hit many Tamers that you can put into rest, that you'd use the Garurumon. That's why he's at a one of, because he is very situational. The deck can run fine without him, but you know, there's nothing wrong with having him there as a contingency plan. The deck does draw fast enough that, you know, you tend to be able to get the pieces you want to get when you want to get them. Up next is Ultforce. Now, the main guy of the deck, you've heard me reference him all the way through it, is your turn. If you have a blue Tamer, if your blue Tamer becomes rested, this Digimon becomes active. And now this is why he's so big, because it is not once per turn. So you sequence your Tamer rests correctly, you can get a lot of attacks with him. And your turn, once per turn, this Digimon becomes active during your main phase, get +1 memory. And again, like I said, this is where the deck starts becoming crazy, when you start calculating the inheritables. But again, he's crazy enough if you just hardcast a Zudumon out and then evolve onto the Zudumon, and you're just gaining the memory and getting that early game pressure against your opponent. There's nothing wrong with just doing that, but if you can build a full chain and you're raising area at the same time as doing the one with the Zudumon, I'm not going to stop you. I'm going to recommend it to you, so that when they eventually get rid of your ult and mega chain, you've got a full chain coming out from the backfield, and you're just going to do the same, but worse, because you're getting the +1k off your Uppermon, you're getting the draw off the Veedramon, you're getting the possible draw off your Veedramon 0 by returning cards from your deck at the same time. And then you've got your ultimate that I just remembered I glossed over, that gives you jamming when you return to active off Aerovedramon. So my apologies on that one. But yeah, Aerovedramon's inheritable, gives this guy jamming as well. So you don't even have to worry about getting took out by the security. Just on the initial first swing that you've got to worry about that. Up next is... let's cover Ice Wolf Claw next, which I run as a 2 of. Just to get rid of threats if I've not got the spot I want to get to yet. It returns the top Digimon to the opponent's hand, and the rest go to the discard pile. It is just literally there as a 2 of, hoping it pops up in your security, which you probably won't, because running a 2 of in the deck only gives you an 18% chance of it popping up in security. But that's almost a 1 in 5 game result. So it's not terrible, but again, it's totally worth it for 7 as well if your opponent's just gone too far too fast and you just need to deal with it. Made a bit of an error in this, as I've missed Omnimon. So let's go over Omnimon. I run a 1 of Omnimon. The deck doesn't need it, but there's no reason not to run it as a 1 of. There are situations where it's usable. Maybe you've not got enough Tamers out, so you're not getting the full benefit of Ultforce. Maybe you just want to clear a threat off your opponent's board. Maybe they're running the purple blocker spam, where they keep playing Piedmons and getting the blockers out, so you'd select blocker and do the Omnimon to get rid of all the blockers. You know, there's reasons to have him as a 1 of. I wouldn't go any higher than that, because you can run just fine without him. Up next is the Tamers, which is Matt. I run Matt as a 3 of. I did have him as a 2 of, but I just weren't seeing him enough, so I got fed up of that and decided to invest in having him at 3, just to try and up the consistency of getting him earlier on, which has been working. He's too good not to have, because, you know, having free memory a turn guaranteed is what you ideally want. So, you know, Ultforce is free energy. Your Aerovedramon costs free energy. Omnimon's 6 energy, so it only put your opponents free if you had free. It just makes a nice round number of being able to evolve twice per turn and not give your opponent too much energy, because odds are your opponent will have their Tamer out. So it means you can spend free, go to 0, spend free again, and go to free on their side, and you're making the perfect numbers without giving your opponent too much to fret upon. Up next is one of the most important Tamers of the deck, Tai Chi. Costs 2 energy. Once per turn, you can rest him to draw 1 card or give one of your Digimon 1000 DP until the end of your turn. Now, the drawing off this guy is insane. I run 3 of him. So, you know, if you get 2 of them out, it means you're drawing 3 cards per turn. You get your card at the start of the turn. And then if you've got a Veedramon on the field, you know, you can draw another 2 cards by tapping both of them. So, you know, you just get into what you want. If you get these out early, it's very unlikely it's not going to be your game. And then up next is Reena. Reena, I run as a 2 of. I did have her at 3, and that's where I swapped the ratios with Matt, just because she was coming up too much. Matt weren't coming up enough. And the main reason Reena's good is because your turn, if one of your blue Digimon attacks by resting this card, that Digimon gets plus 1k until the end of your turn. She's good because you can rest her as you attack, which will restand your Ultra Force, giving him jamming straight away on the first attack if he's got Aerovedramon's Inheritable down. But she is quite pricey at 3 when all she does other than that is reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 Digimon whose name contains V to your hand amongst them, and put the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. Ideally, you want your opponent to slap one of these out for your security. If you get it early on and you've not got many plays, there's no harm in playing it. It can help you try and find a Veemon so that you can get your rookie and start going up the chain, or your champion, just a missing piece. It is better than just sitting there drawing and hoping for the best, because at least then you're going to put 3 cards that you don't need on the bottom of your deck in a worst case scenario. But that's why I moved her down to 2. And I have realised I missed one of the most important cards of the deck, which was Vulcan's Hammer, which is 0 cost, and it gives you 1 memory per turn. Not per turn, sorry, I'm waffling here now. It gives you 1 memory for a 0 cost. So there's nothing not to like about that. And then in security, it gives you 2 memories. So if your opponent hits you and they're at 1 memory, they're going to switch the gauge to you and not be very happy about it. And I've not put it in the video to enlarge, so I apologise about that. But he is a very important card on the deck, and it'll let you extend plays a lot, especially if you haven't got a mat yet, or so your opponent's only left you at 2 energy and you've got the potential to play out your Ultra Force. It makes that 1 difference up where you can put it out and it won't end your turn, or it means that you can leave your opponent on awkward numbers. So if you're at 0 and you've got a Tai Chi in hand, you can play a Vulcan's Hammer, put you to 1, play the Tai Chi, and then you've left your opponent on 1 energy. And as you can see now, I've put the deck as a whole there. You've got the breakdown at the top, thanks to the levels. And that is it for this week's video. Hope you liked the improvements. I'll do better next week on the getting the cards up. That was my bad. Peter helped me with a lot of this, so shout out to Peter. Hopefully drop a like at the bottom. Drop any comments if you've got any deck ideas you want me to profile for the next week. As of this Wednesday, I'll be streaming over on the London Players Guild Twitch as well. I'm going to do this deck this week so that some people can watch some gameplay footage of it, if that's what they want to see. So pop over there and chat to me live. Thanks for tuning in. I've been Blaney Pete. See you next week.